we watch what happens in the devastated Gulf Coast, where there were, I think, 9 casino barges in the harbor at Biloxi, and see how many of them don't get rebuilt. Because I heard today, and I can't attribute this, I just heard it on probably on NPR, that they contributed $2.7 billion, billion with a B, per year to the economy of that area.
Well, and before we go to the calls, I have a couple of points that I would like to make, and one of those is, obviously I agree with Dee. I think that it would be nice to have a casino in Sedgwick County, and I'm not suggesting for one moment that we turn Sedgwick County into another Las Vegas or Atlantic City. That's not my object, and I don't think that's her objective either. What I'm thinking is it would be another option of entertainment, and I think that I resent other organizations making my moral and financial decisions for me. I am capable of deciding how much I can afford to gamble if that's what I choose to do, or if I choose to attend some of the shows, or if I choose to participate in any way in a casino. I feel that I'm very qualified as an adult to make my own decisions as to what I can afford to do, what I can't afford to do. And I really don't like someone else stepping in and saying, oh, but you can't be trusted to make that decision for yourself. Let us look after you. Here's what I think is that what we owe the community is the chance to vote on the issue so that the citizens themselves can step forward and say, yes, I'd like to have a casino, or no, absolutely not. Then our elected officials can make their decisions knowing full well what their constituents actually want. And that's what the whole crux of the matter is. They're making decisions based on what they think is good for us rather than what we want. And that's what I take issue with.
I think it's personal responsibility.
Yes.
And I feel that I'm responsible for my actions and will accept that responsibility, and I feel others should also.
Well, the problem with the current proposition for a referendum is that it's not asking the right question. The question's too vague. The question is the equivalent to, do you want to drive a car in Sedgwick County? Well, sure, everybody wants to be able to drive a car, but not everybody wants to drive the same one.
So what is the question?
If they want to ask the right question, they should ask a very detailed series of questions to say, do you want a state-owned casino operating in Sedgwick County? Do you want a casino that is operated by an Indian tribe on fee land? Do you want an Indian casino that operates on sovereign land is placed in trust like the original proposal in Park City?
So you're in favor of a vote as well?
I'm in favor of a vote at the right time, for the right reason, asking the right questions. But the proposal that's been presented to the Sedgwick County Commission doesn't ask those questions. It's not asking a specific question. The question that was proposed was, do you favor a gambling establishment in Sedgwick County? That's way too vague. Nobody can interpret that as representing anything. And on August 18th in the Wichita Eagle, Bob Knight hinted that this particular referendum is designed specifically to allow him to take data to the state so that he can negotiate with the governor to get the casino built in Park City. He said, the state requires us to have this data, now we can't have it, and so I guess we're pretty much foreclosed on. That's a paraphrase of his statement in the Eagle article.
I'm sorry, I think it's a misunderstanding of the article. The governor isn't doing any negotiating at all. The compacts that were previously negotiated are out the window. And the reason for that primarily is the Department of the Interior is not granting reservation land. They're not allowing Indian tribes to purchase land and then put them into the reservations. If such a thing happened, it would take 3, 4, 5 years. The state of education funding here in Kansas is so dire that I think the governor looked at that and said, you know, Gary Armentrout from the Mashantucket Pequots came up with a plan that would put the money in the government's coffers immediately. It took a lot of the sovereignty away from the Indian tribes, but they're willing to do that, and it would make things move along much more quickly, much more smoothly. As far as the referendum, I think that the simpler it is, the better people know what they're voting for. You confuse the issue with 3 votes, and I think that's what the opposition is trying to do, confuse the issue. If you start dragging it out into all kinds of details, that isn't what the legislature wants to hear in the first place. In the second place, the people of Sedgwick County can't decide that.
Well,
All
and
they
it's-
can decide if they want to expand
The
gaming or not.
The legislature, the majority of our legislators in this area said, this vote won't help us.
Well,
So
it's a
that
non-
argument is futile.
They lied. I'm sorry, they lied. I'll just flat say that on television for the whole world and call me up.
Let me
It will make a difference.
You know, the casino is not going to happen overnight. The process is very complex, right? First is you have to buy a land. You have to negotiate with the governor. Then you have to get local and state approval, right?
You don't have to negotiate with the governor.
You don't
For-
have to
for an
so
Indian-
Are we assuming that the governor already agreeing that for us to have a casino?
The governor campaigned on expanded gaming in the state of Kansas.
So she's for
She's for it.
gambling.
She's for it. She said she was. I have no idea if
I'm gonna
she's
have a talk with
ever call her up.
Yeah.
She campaigned on that issue. She said, she sees millions and millions of dollars flowing out of the state, down 135 to Oklahoma, up the Kansas Turnpike. All you have to do is sit at one of the turnpike gates, either the one in El Dorado or the one down here, and you see busloads going to El Dorado, cars going leaving El Dorado, and cars going south to Oklahoma. And that's money that's going into their state coffers because they allow gaming that we're not getting.
Well, I said we were going to take calls, and I wasn't lying. So let's go to the first caller and talk to Jimmy. Good evening, Jimmy.
Hi, guys. First of all, I would be in favor of the referendum, but I'm in agreement with him. I don't want this thing some manipulated con game like the city arena was that come in like an Italian mafia and said, "We're going to get you if you don't take this arena." That was pretty bad stuff. But what I would say, first of all, with you ladies, I don't discredit anything you say when you say I'm capable of running my life. But for everyone that like you that can do it and do it right, there's 100 like you that'll say I can do it but can't.
Okay,
and say there's a bigger picture.
but
And-
Jimmy, those people, if they're not capable of running their own lives with gaming, they're probably already in trouble for some other reason.
Well, here's what the problem is. First of all, especially with this state-sponsored thing, this is another thing, just like the Hyatt and everything else. This is government because it doesn't have the know-how, which what all it would take was cut taxes. It doesn't have the know-how or want to do what it takes to spur the economy by bringing businesses in here. What it wants to do is to pay for pet projects and make itself the mommy and daddy, and you be good and I'll do this for you. When that's not the way it's supposed to be. When you come in here and you make a popular for the private sector, the private sector can do everything that we're talking about and the state wants to do. And I think we'd all be in agreement that anything the government touches, it destroys.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
this is all private money. There's not one nickel of state funding in this project.
And that's a different argument. And I would hold in favor of you on that argument. When it's private money and it's doing it, but it's throwing money in the pot right after left. When you go to the property owners and you say we want to raise the sales tax, and you say, okay, we're going to take your money here and we're going to put it into one of our feel-good projects or one of our pleasure projects, and we're going to throw it in there. And then you got people here that are already at the poverty level, and they take whatever money that the taxpayer is probably already paying for. They are paying twice right then. Then they go in and they throw their money away. Then you go back to the taxpayer and say, oh, we got more poverty. We got to come back to you. Nobody is ever profiting. Everybody's losing except who? The person who may come up with the idea. You take New Orleans, for instance. You mentioned Mississippi. Okay? There's a town right